Good morning. It is Hump Day Wednesday, July 2024. The last day of July. It's the July 31st. It's show number episode 83 of Coffee with the Summerland Kids. And today, the weather in Summerland is currently 60 degrees with a high of 75, mostly sunny. So another epic, perfect day to just probably lay out on the beach, I guess. That kind of that was the thing. That's what we did. We freaking put on that tanning oil, and before it was frowned upon, we were baking ourselves as kids.
Oh yeah, we're baking ourselves. Well, here in Orville, you can tell by the color of
Yeah,
my hair, we're getting a little
right.
bit of a smoky sky.
Oh man.
It's not necessarily so close to us, but it's affecting
Yeah.
4 counties. The
Wow.
Park Fire,
Uh-huh.
um, and so it's a pretty big fire going on.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
I guess we kind of get used to that up around here in these parts. Up in the
Yeah.
California, I guess we've always had, fire season, and
Yeah. Pretty
that's
wild,
definitely
man.
a trip, to wake up and just, you could tell, I could tell anyway, just kind of my eyes kind of feel a little bit drier and a little bit irritated, and then waking up and seeing the sky and seeing the sun, just a bright orange. You can see
Wow.
it in my face, and in my
Trippy.
hair, it
Yeah.
has a little
Yeah.
orange tint.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I remember a couple times in Santa Barbara when we were kids. It was definitely in our time in the early 80s. Definitely that time. Anyways, there were some fires behind Santa Barbara, and I remember being out surfing, and there was those Santa Ana winds. The Santa Ana winds sometimes would come through Summerland and blow offshore winds. So that was always magical. And I remember like being out in the water, looking up, and the smoke was pretty significant in terms of like covering the sun essentially in some cases, where it's almost like a cloudy day. It turns a regular sunny day into a weird overcast, trippy sequence.
Yeah, it's a weird overcast for sure. It's
Yeah,
trippy. I was listening to the news, and it was saying how the smoke is actually reaching the East Coast.
that's
As far as
amazing.
the number of fires here in the West.
Yeah,
You were saying there's a fire there in Colorado too.
yeah. In Colorado, up by Denver, the Denver News is reporting on a couple of fires that they're dealing with, and I think one was started by, I believe, a guy who burned a car and drove it over a cliff or something, like for fun. I don't know. I don't know why he did it, but that was that story. And then so they're battling. I mean, they show shots, of course, of the airplanes dumping that weird red dust on it. And they have a few pretty amazing helicopters that fly into the lake and suck the water up into the helicopter and then take off and dump that. So they're all over it. And they said they're spread kind of thin in terms of the there's so many fires going that they're in terms of how many firefighters, the firefighters are spread across these different fires that they're trying to work on at the same time. So that's got to be challenging. And I think in your guys' case, thankfully your local fire got put out, but then up by Chico, that's where that park fire is, huh?
Yeah, and I guess from what my girlfriend was telling me, they arrested somebody.
Oh wow.
They had, I guess, pushed a flaming shopping cart into one of the ravines or a valley or something,
No
which started
fucking
it.
way, dude. Oh my God. Crazy. Yeah, they just have no idea. Like a moment can just get away from you, with no exit strategy. Um, and you always think like, hey, when it first starts, you can get it out quick, but it's actually kind of tough. I mean, I told you about a little circumstance in my neighborhood where it was one man and myself trying to put out a little grass fire, and you felt the energy inside yourself, like you're questioning your own reality, going like, can we get this out? Like in your mind's going, it's kind of getting away from us, you know. And okay, keep putting water on it, keep putting water on it. And thankfully, it was so small, we were able to get it out. But you know, in terms of on a large scale, you know, it's almost like the same sort of thing where you're putting a bucket slash a massive, you know, airplane dump on a section, but it still gets carried away in another direction, or the wind and all those factors that come on it, you know. So
Yeah, I know that you know, they have to really hope that the wind is going in the right direction or
yeah,
not going in the wrong direction.
for sure.
Been a couple fires where, you know, the flame is basically going as fast as the wind, and if you're getting, you know, 50-mile-an-hour wind, that fire is expanding at 50 miles an hour. And how
Yes,
do you really fight that?
I
It's
know it's so fast. I mean, it's so fast. It's like it's on. You know, sometimes when you're driving 55 nowadays, it feels like you're driving slow. Um, you know, oftentimes on the little highway, I have to drive 7 miles on a 2-lane little road, Highway 84, to get into town, and people, of course, will be passing. Um, but the speed limit, I think it might be in some places 60 or 65. I can't remember, but you know, 55 feels slow, but 55 also feels fast, especially like if you when you used to skateboard. Seldom would we reach that speed, but we would do some hill bombing, and we would get going pretty fast. And you know, it's scary when you're at that speed, when you're just by yourself on a skateboard, but you have to keep mind over matter going. But I can't imagine a fire going that quickly, you know, watching that. Imagine sitting on the freeway watching cars go by, and then watching a fire go by that quickly. You're like, oh my God. It's almost like you got
wow.
no time to react. I mean, it's almost like some sort of radical science slash something has to be essentially developed to do that. And it's surprising they haven't figured that out yet, how to have a better solution to fire management or controlling fires.
Yeah, I had a couple friends that were basically firefighters. They were
Okay.
what they call smoke jumpers.
Oh wow.
So they would be flown in front of the fire
Okay.
to the direction where the fire is, and they, you know, either cut fire breaks or set backfires that, you know, hopefully burn into the existing fire, and so there's no more fuel. But there's been a couple times they were telling me they bring these fire blankets. So just in case they can't get out of the fire, they basically lay down on the ground and cover themselves up with these fire blankets and have to wait until the fire burns over them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's
So
just, you know, I guess you got to be a brave soul to do smoke jumping. But
yeah.
there's so many people out there helping, you know, whether it's flying a helicopter or an airplane, or, you know, running a fire truck, running a hose, or a smoke jumper that's jumping out of an airplane in front of the fire, just going, "Come and get me! I'm here to fight you." You know,
Yeah. Right.
and you know, we do only have so many resources. You know, there's
That's
however
true.
many fires burning in California right now. Um, you know, sometimes we're lucky, and other parts of the country or other parts of the state can send their crews up. I know that downtown in the Thompson fire, I was watching the traffic, and there'd, you know, be 4 or 5 trucks, and they'd have a little sticker in the front or a little piece of paper saying which crew they're on. So
Oh
you know,
wow.
someone's got to manage all that and say, okay, you
Yeah.
guys go here, you guys go there. Let's hit it here with the water. And it's just a little bit overwhelming for me to think of all of it, but
Yeah. No,
looking
for
at my
sure.
face here and just the
I
orangeness
know.
coming in the window, it's like, wow,
Wow.
it's got to be a pretty big fire to have so much smoke.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's wild, and it comes across multiple states. Like there's that when you look at the map, they have some pretty interesting like satellite imagery that's showing the smoke and how it's coming out of California and crossing through and coming over to us and moving on, like you said, across the across the states. It's pretty crazy, and it's kind of interesting that it's well, you know, only in our world where we're on show 83, and in 1983, the Police had the song called "Every Breath You Take," so it kind of ties into our current situation. We take it for granted, fresh, clean air, or clean air at least, and California has made significant, leaps and bounds as far as trying to keep the air clean, having you smog your car and all the little details of having clean air. But then we have circumstances like this where wildfires, that can't be that good for the air. I can't imagine,
No, I mean, it's a natural cycle and everything,
Yeah.
but we had a lot of, I guess, a lot of rain this last winter, so that makes a lot of vegetation grow.
Yeah.
So that means there's a lot of fuel, and then it goes from that rainy, lots of fuel growing, lots of grasses growing, all the bushes growing, to as hot and dry as it's been. It's just a tinderbox. It turns into a tinderbox. Um,
Right.
when I was younger, I used to go out to the Lake Nacimiento, and we
Nice.
would have to drive through because it was on the backside. It wasn't the main side. We would have to drive through like ranch area and everything, and it was if you're smoking a cigarette, roll the windows up and
Woo!
ashtray.
Yeah.
No windows
Wow.
down if you're smoking. You roll those windows up and you don't flick your ashes out because it's just so hot and dry that one little spark was set it off like a tinderbox.
Yeah, because it's that dry, it's yellow. It's that yellow dry grass. Like it's essentially dead grass, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's crazy. Wow.
And then
Down.
it was
Yeah.
a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I was up on my friend's property up here, and it was thunderstorms, but it wasn't like
Okay.
wet, rainy thunderstorms. It was just lightning.
Okay.
And
Wow.
so we were watching the lightning strike, and we actually watched a couple fires, going
Oh
going
shit.
on, and it was like
Wow.
kind of weird, eerie, because all the smoke, and you're up in the mountains, and all the trees and stuff had already been burnt on his property.
Oh wow.
But then it was like literally, like it was here in Orville. It didn't seem but a
Yeah.
few miles away where some
Yeah.
of these fires were burning.
Wow.
And just watching the lightning strike and start it.
Huh.
So
Do those trees?
nature's an amazing thing.
I know. Do those trees come back after they get burned?
Some of them do.
Some of them do. Yeah.
Some of them do.
Yeah.
I know that I don't know whether it was the county or the fire department had come out and tagged some of the trees, like saying, okay, these ones need to be cut down.
Oh.
Because they're too far gone, or
Okay.
they're in a danger of falling.
Right.
But then there were some trees that did make it. Some of those bigger trees, it just burns by so fast. It only burns up, 10 or 15, maybe 20 feet on the tree, but they're a 80-foot tree. So the crowns and the tips and the trees are still alive, yet some of the trees burnt all the way down into the root system.
Oh
So
wow.
you were, it was such a hot of a fire, such an intense fire that not only did the tree burn down, but it burned underground with the roots, which
Oh
is
my God. That's
just
crazy.
really interesting to think about, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's wild. Is Chico is there a lot of trees there in Chico? Is it pretty wooded? Like kind of
it's really neat, because you're driving on the freeway, and when you're in Los Angeles, it's city. You see buildings, and when you're driving through Chico, there's a lot of open space, a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees and growth.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a beautiful area. Beautiful.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of when you said that, like driving up to Grass Valley in Nevada City. I mean, it's literally you're just driving on a highway that seems like was carved right through the forest almost, because on both sides of you, in some cases, is old growth forest essentially.
Yeah, 15, 20 minutes up the hill, you got a lot of forest.
Yeah, wow.
It's kind of, you can see that some of it's been burnt down, but a lot of it's coming back.
That's cool.
And
yeah.
I always liked, the idea of living in a forest, but I've never liked the idea that it could burn you out pretty quick. I guess living in the city, it could still happen,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
but
Yeah.
I guess there's a little bit more fire protection. You got the city water, fire hydrants, every other thing.
Yeah.
But then you look at something like the San Francisco fire that, back in the day burned the whole city out, basically.
Right. I wonder if it's because a lot of the people chose to build with old-fashioned wood, essentially like the old Victorian style, where for them being so close to the forest, where they were pulling all and logging and milling all that wood. Perhaps it was a lot of wood structures that burned. Up here, it's I sent you that one picture, that one log house, but I noticed someone else, near the lake is building a house using cinder block, which is not as common. There's more, I want to say, stick built homes are more popular than cinder block up here, at least. Maybe just for the style, Everybody
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's got to be a few considerations. Price probably is one.
Price, yeah.
I guess it's easier and maybe less expensive to build with wood versus brick or cinder blocks.
Yeah, exactly.
But
no, for sure.
And it may be aesthetics, because a friend of mine was living when he was in Fresno, and I'd go and visit, and his house was made of brick.
Okay.
And it is just a different feel, a different look. I guess maybe it's because I wasn't used to it. I mean, obviously there's going to be a certain amount of what you're used to versus, how the common standardized building is.
Yeah.
Because if you're not used to something, obviously you're going to be like, oh, well, this is a little bit different. But once you get used to it, it's like if you take me up in the snow, you'll be like, But after a while, I guess I would have to get used to it, putting the gloves on and heavy boots and the thick jackets.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you just sort of adapt to it, because you quickly go outside. Dude, this morning it said it was 40 degrees up here this morning, 40.
That don't sound like global warming, Jericho.
I know, right? It sounds a little on the chillier side. I definitely like I said, it feels like the seasons are already tapering but again, it's supposed to be 90 plus degrees in Denver. So other parts of the and we're probably going to be 80 something, I bet, today. So it's a what do you call it? The big swing from the chilly morning to the hot day right away.
Yeah. I mean, up here, we've had a few days over 110 or whatnot, 109.
Wow.
And it's, you get used to it, because now when it's like 90, it's only 97 degrees today. And it seems very comfortable,
Right.
And down on the coast, when I was living on the coast, an 85 or 88 degree day. Oh, it's so hot. I'm sweating. I'm miserable.
Yeah.
At 88 degrees. And, we get acclimated to the environment, to situations.
For sure. Classic, man. Yeah. So, anyways, do you have that list of the other songs? Was it in the 1983 time? We were talking about Michael Jackson had. I was saying he had manifested himself because he wasn't happy with the Off the Wall and how well it did on the charts, but when he did Beat It and Billie Jean and it wasn't I want to say that wasn't the Thriller album. It was the album before Thriller. So that guy was really on a chart topping whirlwind. And I remember watching MTV, of course, and MV3, another funny music television show. And back in those days, we were just definitely it was almost like nowadays with social media, you have so much choices, but back then to see music television was a whole new realm for us as kids. Do you remember watching those? Remember seeing like Billy Idol and, of course, even Motley Crue being on those shows? Do you remember that stuff?
Oh, I remember. It was such a big deal. I guess MTV was a premium channel, and we just had the basic cable
Oh,
when I
right.
was in high school and younger. But I would go over to a friend's house and they would be MTV, and these videos. It was just something else, you
It
know.
was.
It was something else.
Yeah. Tom
Yeah,
Petty was
like you were
Tom
saying,
Petty.
the Michael Jackson had a number 2 and a number 5
Okay.
for the
83.
1983
Yeah. Yeah.
Billboard, the Hot 100 list, you know, which
Yeah.
is to not only have a number 2 but a number 5, you know, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and back then it was all about record sales. Like literally the amount of records it was actually selling, because there was no way to own it. Digital really didn't exist in that way. So as kids, we had to record using a cassette tape off the radio. You could record a song off the radio, or if you had a friend or you have a dual cassette, you could record cassette to cassette.
Yeah,
So
that was a big thing. Everyone was like,
yeah,
"Yeah, look at I got the mixtape," and
yeah, exactly.
then by the time I was in high school, CDs was a thing,
Oh, big time.
and
Yeah.
started coming out with the iTunes or the Zune. I guess Microsoft had their little version,
Oh, really? Oh,
and
that's funny.
after high school, I guess it was a few years after high school. I'd say maybe it was quite a few years after high school.
Yeah.
It was the Napster. Oh, the
Oh,
Napster
yeah. That,
conspiracy or whatever. I guess it was a big deal, some lawsuits because people were, instead of handing you a mixtape, I could say, oh, I'm going to put it up on Napster. And then any number of people could just be like, I want this song. And it would come up and you could press download and would download. And
yeah.
um,
It got pretty quick. I mean, with a good internet speed. I remember it was, God, what year is that? 2001. If I had to guess, 2001. I lived in a house that had a good internet connection, and I remember having a ton of songs on a PC, and it was cool. I mean, it definitely opened our realm quite a bit, to different types of music and all that. Just like nowadays, people take it for granted, but it wasn't always like that. We had to go down to State Street, or I remember Carpinteria had a little music store where we had to buy records, buy cassettes. That was
no,
how we.
that was a big thing. The record store, they had a
Yeah.
Boo Boo's Records in San Luis Obispo, and all the cool kids would hang out there, and they're waiting for the new release, and then the parental advisory records, you
Right.
have to get somebody who was 18 to buy it for you, so your friend
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Oh, you're under 18, you can't buy this record.
Yeah. Like
I
Two
guess
Live Crew.
I
Yeah.
guess
Two
there
Live
was
Crew.
ways around it, but
Right. It's almost like the record store was the coffee shop, was the cool kid hangout before coffee shops kind of came in. I remember there was one, was the Cafe Roma or something like that in Santa Barbara on State Street, and it was definitely like a hangout. Just because there'd be obviously some cool kids working there. They're like the first baristas or something. It became a thing, to socially. I guess that's just the place. I mean, after the mall, when you're outside the mall, State Street, I guess the whole thing is like a mall almost. All of State Street was,
yeah,
like,
nowadays, didn't they turn part of it into pedestrian only?
yeah, I guess so. And I did see it like, I think a couple had just gotten married and they were walking on State Street, and it looked like it was closed off to traffic. So they've done that. I think a little bit during COVID, they allowed some of the restaurants to build those parquettes, those little outdoor patio seating, and then people kind of like it. I mean, it's kind of fun to be able to walk on the street. It always feels like you're doing something wrong, even though you're not. And when you're walking down the middle of the road, and there's something to be said for the pedestrian friendly zones. And I know they would close the street for farmers market. I think it was Tuesdays in Santa Barbara for farmers market, and that's a cool scene where it's like a community gathering kind of a thing. Like, you might know the farmer, You definitely might know people that are shopping for produce down there. It's very convenient and all that. I imagine you guys had some of those. Do you have a farmers market up where you're at or no?
There is one up here,
Is there? That's
and I
cool.
always remember, back in high school, the farmers market in San Luis Obispo was kind of a big deal. They'd
Oh
shut
yeah.
down the main road,
Oh
and all
cool.
the restaurants would have their booths out, and the little stores, the candy shops,
Oh
all the
nice.
farmers. And it was like the first section or the last section, depending how you're looking at it,
Yeah.
was all the produce and farmers.
Uh-huh.
And then you'd get down into the main part, and it was, a lot of restaurants, a lot of new products, um,
Nice.
different sales, I guess, different booths. You could,
Yeah.
really find some really interesting things. And then down at the other end was mainly the restaurants, and there would just be lines up and down. There would be
Wow.
lines for
Yeah.
certain restaurants. Just that food was really super good, and all the
Yeah.
kids would run around, and it was just so wild times back in the days at the farmers market. I remember.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's like a fun atmosphere. I love that about it, where it brings people out to see each other, and just creates a little uplifting vibe. And hopefully that's still going and thriving.
Oh, and the food sometimes you gotta get that food right out of the farm. It's so fresh and so good. And
Yeah,
it's like they literally pick. I was always stop and chit chat with them, and they try the orange or try the apple or try a slice of the peaches, and that was really the hook. Because you take a little taste of that orange, and it's like, whoa, that's an amazing orange or amazing
yeah,
apple, amazing peach. I definitely got to get some of those, and to
yeah,
where maybe you just look at it and go, oh, yeah, I like peaches. And you think to yourself, sometimes you get those really good peaches, and sometimes you
right,
get peaches that are like, eh. But when you
right,
can taste it right there on the spot, right from the farmer, and oh, that's the good one. So I'm going to get me
yeah,
a few pounds of those right now
right,
before they're
yeah.
running.
I wish they would make that. I mean, we have one here. I think there might be a couple of them now, a couple of farmers markets, but it definitely is um, a benefit to the community. That's for sure. Because the supermarket just doesn't have that. Once in a while they'll set up a little table and give out some samples of something, but not as much as the farmers market. The farmers market is like, it's like seeing is believing, tasting is another level of believing. So you're able to sort of, and also connecting with a local merchant who's grown locally, you know, uh, perhaps even harvested it themselves or with their team, and then they bring it to the market, and it's their livelihood, their living that they're making from that, which is amazing. I mean, that's the way that the old world used to work. Is like, you know, people brought it, was it farm to table, was more of a commonplace than it is now. So
Yeah.
yeah, wish we miss those old days. I mean, I think they have a market in Summerland. I think it's maybe they might have some produce. I'm not sure, but I know there was a lot of vending. I remember Hank would vend once in a while at the Summerland, like kind of weekend swap or something like that. You know, that was
Yeah.
pretty
I mean,
cool.
the Earl Warren Showgrounds was the big weekly swap meet. Um,
Okay, yeah,
I don't recall too much in Summerland. I
yeah,
know that one of the last times I was there, the last few years, they had like a little farmers market type vending thing, set up in
yeah,
the post office parking lot and
right,
down a couple of the little streets.
yeah,
But yeah, the farmers markets are always fun.
yeah, for
The
sure.
first time I tried microgreens was the farmers market.
Oh,
Um,
classic.
I guess one of the first times I tried a smoothie, I might have been at the farmers market.
Wow,
You
that's a
know,
big that's a big deal.
yeah,
Turning people on to healthy food versus what is it? Fruit Loops and Cocoa Puffs. It's a little
cuckoo. I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Cuckoo, I
exactly,
say.
exactly. Well, I hope you guys have a great day, man, and stay safe. I hope those firefighters. I know it's a, I mean, how far is Sacramento from Chico? Is that like 2 hours or?
About 2 hours, I think.
Okay, so you'd imagine there'd be a pretty good infrastructure in Sacramento to send out to Chico to help those folks with the fire. So
Yeah, I think
thank,
they pull in resources from throughout the state.
yeah, that's a big deal. Well, cheers, man, to another day. Coffee with the Summerland Kids, episode 83. You have a great day, man.